Hello, Mr. Congressman. How are
Yes, sir.
you?
Hey, I'm great, brother. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for fitting us into your tight schedule. I really appreciate it. For all who may not know, I can't imagine that, but this is Representative Tim Burchett and Burchett. Sorry.
It's all right, brother. Nobody
You know,
gets it
you know,
right.
you know how we Tennesseans are. We like to draw out syllables, Burchett.
That's all right. Yeah.
But
Trump,
anyway,
honestly, oddly enough, Donald Trump gets it right. His guys say, "How do you say Tim Burchett's name?" They said, "Burchett, Mr. President." And they said he looked in a mirror and he goes, "Burchett, Burchett, Burchett."
well, oddly enough, I wanted to kind of get that question out of the way. I know a lot of people that listen to the show on like Twitter aren't that interested, but I'm interested in what you think about Colorado removing Trump from the ballot.
Well, all they did is make his numbers go up. It'll go to the Supreme Court, and we'd lose one of the conservative votes, maybe, but it'll. I just don't see it going anywhere. You know, you convicted a man of something that he has not, or I mean, you're throwing him out on something that he has not been convicted of as of yet. So, you know, the left claims a victory, and the right says we're being sabotaged. So and nothing changes. Numbers don't, it'll move a little bit, move in the favor in Trump's favor, but I don't see it doing a whole lot.
I read in a few, I guess they were left wing. I don't mean to say left wing. They were left leaning news channels saying that the Supreme Court wouldn't have any jurisdiction, and that seemed kind of odd to me. It seemed like it would.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they do, and they will. I
I
just,
hope. So. Yeah, I hope so. I think it's kind of, for me, it seems tactically wrong. Just you know what I mean. It doesn't seem like a very good move. It seems like these
yep.
kind of things just embolden supporters, and they also sort of back these conspiracy theories, that people have against
Yeah,
Trump.
I mean, it just enforces it. It really
Yeah.
does, brother. It really does.
Well, I wanted to get that passed. I was curious about what you thought about that. Um, the other question I have, and I was looking at the audience has a few questions, and obviously they're going to be more about David Grush and that kind of situation.
Yeah.
But what do you think about this new revelation that he actually had? He's now saying that he has seen some things firsthand. Is that what you've heard, or what's the newest on that situation?
Well, I know David, of course, and we communicate occasionally. Um, so I have no reason to doubt what he's saying. I just, if something flew here, some being had to fly it here, and if it crashed, then obviously we would have found something. So I just don't have a. I don't know what the argument is. I don't know why the federal government keeps cover. I do know why they cover it up, but um, I just think that they've overshot their runway on this one. I think the American public knows it, and they're trying to plug this thing up by and they're putting a lot of false stories out. And that's what I really have to be careful of. Somebody calls me and they've got pictures or they've got something they want me to go national with it, a story or whatever, and that's not my job. My job is exposing the fact that we are not transparent, and we need to be transparent.
What do you think that? I didn't realize that you knew him that well. You've had conversations with him obviously before, but did you have any before this whole he came out with this in the beginning?
No, no, that's when he and I became friends, and you know, I know his credentials, and I knew they'd try to destroy him, and I told him that, and just like they're trying to destroy me. I mean, now I've got people flying up to Washington, meeting with billionaires and millionaires, running against me, and they're going to use this against the the uniparty. The people that are really pulling the strings in this country hate when Americans exercise their constitutional rights and in use their authority of what they're granted by the Constitution.
I'm from a district just south of you. I can't imagine who would be running against you. Excuse me, kind of cracking my throat there, but I can't imagine I can't imagine who would even pose a threat for you.
Yeah. Well, they'll say Burchett voted 65% of the time with Pelosi or something like that, which I voted for those post offices. They're not going to name themselves, so they'll misuse everything and they'll have millions of dollars. There's a very arrogant bunch. There's a reason people like me aren't out on the tarmac when the president comes in.
This was one of the questions I had from Kurt M.
Sure.
And it's been said whistleblowers have talked to AARO. I think he's talking about AARO, right?
Yeah.
And Congress. Is any of that information being followed up on?
Absolutely. Whistleblowers, you have to provide them some protection, and we're following up with a lot of stuff, but it's like drinking out of a fire hose. Once that hearing happened with those three people, I think you and I discussed this before, and that just brought them out of the woodwork.
So you're, I'm trying to dig in a little bit and kind of get to where you are kind of with this whole thing. You don't think that, I don't know, it's funny. I wake up on Friday mornings and I'm all like, yay, UFOs, On Monday mornings, I wake up and go, is this just some sort of intelligence operation to cover up high tech that, you know what I mean? I have to admit I guess some people would see that as a weakness, but
you should question everything, because it's, the sheep are what gets us into trouble in this issue. They just, whatever they're fed, they just take, whether it's a friend or a foe. I mean, you can get false information, then you just run down that rabbit hole, and then it just causes us all great harm.
Well, skeptics, get the label debunkers now on social media, so it's it's hard to maintain neutrality. I mean, obviously, I think there's life in the universe. Sometimes it's hard to decipher between what's, I mean, you've seen in the past few months several hoaxes, brought to us on social media and be debunked almost, within a week or so.
Yeah. And this AI stuff, unless I see it, but again, I don't need to see it. It's like oxygen. I don't need to see it to believe that it's there. I'm going to keep on breathing. And I've talked to enough people. I've seen enough. I mean, this conspiracy is hundreds of thousands of people are involved in it if it's a false flag and a conspiracy.
I guess, but I guess there's ways that are, conspiracies are mixed in with real true life. I guess where you have situations with like the Pentagon, where they have so much money unaccounted for each year. Obviously, those are, I guess, black programs or whatever. But
sure,
I guess it's easy for people to pick out a situation like that and say, "See," to back their conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I mean,
oh yeah, sure.
We're all curious as to what high tech that we have, but it's obvious that we have to keep it, under wraps for security reasons, and so, that gets blended in, I think, sometimes with these kind of things. I mean, I have to wonder myself, at what point are we, hiding for good reason our own technology?
Sure.
But again, I don't want to seem like that much of a skeptic. Again, I believe in our last show I was talking about a hierarchy of words, meanings of words, and I sort of have faith up there at the top, belief, and then trust. And
yep.
The trust I place in some humans, like I trust you to tell me the truth, but I don't have any faith in any humans, So I said that kind of brought some backlash and they said, well, you don't have faith in Grush. Well, I trust him, but I don't, you know what I mean? It's hard for me to say.
Yeah, I agree. I know what you're saying, but here's what I did. I said, even if Grush was mistaken, even if he was and here's what you got to figure. You got a possibly $1 trillion thing going on with this. Even if they gave Grush all this wrong information all along, so that knowing that he would leak at some point, which is in the realm of possibilities, you still had two pilots one on either side of him in that committee that were talking about something that was flying, and they said under oath that it was not anything. I think basically they said not anything from this earth, I believe is what they said. So that to me is enough. Forget Grush. Just bring in those pilots. They got nothing. They got everything to lose and nothing to gain from this. And bring in Lou Elizondo. I know these people. Talk to them. They'll tell you. They will tell you straight up what's going on with this thing.
Lou has kind of fallen out of the spotlight a little bit lately.
Well, that's by his own doing, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably is just tired of the spotlight. He's working on a movie, and it's going to be pretty kick-ass, I think.
I knew he was writing a book, but I didn't realize he was making a movie. Huh. This is another question. I had another question from Kurt. Let's see. Do you think the UFO topic will be brought up during the 2024 election debates?
Yeah, but they'll laugh and joke about it. And I still think they ought to just say, hey, we've been telling people since 1947 these things don't exist, and we spent tens of millions of dollars researching them. Why won't they release the unredacted files? That's it. That's all they got to say. And then people would go crazy over it.
What was your response when you heard that?
You just have to break the shackle.
Say that again. I'm sorry. My phone kicked in.
That's okay. I was a bit taken aback whenever Grush during the hearings mentioned that people had been physically harmed, or didn't he say there were some deaths involved?
I think so in his life. I don't know about all those details. I'm not surprised. Again, you're talking, I mean, somebody will kill you for a rock of crack coke, $5 worth of crack cocaine. You're talking, I mean, these are evil people, man.
So you're thinking that this may be more about information they had regarding our own technology or
I don't know. You're just talking about espionage and other things, and people die every day. We kill people every day. If we have very, very good men that have to go out and do very, very bad things sometimes.
It is amazing how shielded we are as citizens from what happens within our intelligence agencies.
And how naive we are.
Yeah. I guess I was surprised a little bit that you would think something like that would be more out in the open, like their family. Do they have families? Do their families?
Sure.
What are they? You haven't heard much from them, or I haven't. So I'm just curious about why you don't really hear about. I guess the people that are involved. I guess intelligence agencies don't really. I don't know how that works. Do they select people that don't have families, or
I don't know. That's beyond my pay grade. They
certainly beyond mine.
It's so compartmentalized and contained that that's the way they do it. That's just the way they do it, and they can do it that way, and they continue to do it that way. And nuclear bomb developed down here at Oak Ridge National Laboratory during the Second World War. Several thousand people worked on it, and less than 20 knew what they were working on. How do they do that? It's just compartmentalization. That's the way you do it.
I was
I
looking.
mean,
I'm sorry.
you can be analyzing some material or the research from some material, and these people never touch it, never see it. They're just doing chemicals and numbers analysis. They don't know that it could be from something from outer space.
So your thought is currently. I'm trying to kind of dig into what your current thinking is. You don't think any of what we're seeing is our own technology?
I think very little of it is.
Okay.
Very little, because as I stated many times, a human could not withstand those G forces.
If they're manned, right? I guess they could be unmanned. Yeah. Huh.
But, and again, we wouldn't be putting them in our own airspace where our $50 million aircraft and our heavily trained pilots could have 14 documented near collisions.
I guess that's extreme even for training exercises.
Yeah, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. They would do it in an area where nobody's around for the risk of death and a sighting and just any of it.
So what have you got coming up as far as are there more hearings planned?
Yeah, hopefully we'll get Grush in the skiff and get some more information. Hopefully they'll quit stonewalling us there. Our own problem is our own people. I feel like they're compromised and they've allowed this stuff they won't allow us to see it. And they're arrogant and they're dangerous. And that gets us into trouble.
What happens to that information once you receive it in a skiff? Is it locked up for 50 years or how can it be shared?
It doesn't. It just, you're not allowed to talk about it, but it always leaks out. But the thing is, you got to be real careful about that. You're not, I can remember during the Trump, when Trump was, they were trying to get rid of Trump and we had to go into the skiff. And by the time we walk out, the Democrats had already sent somebody out with the information to the press and they were reporting on it, live reporting on what we were talking about.
This was the Republican caucus meeting about?
No.
Oh.
This is when we were in the impeachment with Trump. When Trump was in the White House, we were in the skiff, and I can remember somebody coming back in telling me what was just said in the skiff that was being reported on CNN, and a Democrat had just walked out. And so, it's just a leak. But the skiff, you're supposed to be able to talk in a secure environment and ask questions and sort of get a general idea. But I think it's going to give us a general parameter of what's going on in the world with this thing, and maybe it gives us some ideas of where to look for some information.
How does that? It just occurred to me, why aren't how did this? I'm trying to understand how the whistleblower laws blend in with the skiff.
Well, if it's a national security issue, say they're going to talk about some kind of sonar. That's what part of it is. They collect this data on our sonar or radar that nobody knows we have, and then they don't want to put it out because they'll have to admit they've got this capability that nobody knows we have, and so that's part of the problem.
I guess what I'm wondering is why, and this is not a criticism at all of anybody involved. It's just a curious question. Why it seems like there's no current. So the whistleblower laws were set up to protect people, right? So that if they came forward, but nobody's really taking it. I don't want to say taking advantage. No one's using the whistleblower law because no one's releasing anything to the public.
Well, they don't trust the whistleblower law.
Okay, I was trying to get to the root.
Grush is a whistleblower, and what did they do? They got a hold of this police file, claimed he had PTSD, which is no crime there, and then released that to cloud his credibility by saying he had a mental issue. And to me, that's gross. That's horrible.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is that it seems like the whistleblower law isn't really being used if people are just going into skiffs, right?
Right.
Except that if the people in the skiff are dangerous to them.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's just to me, it's
I guess
it's a situation where we have got to we've got to address it. We have got to address it, and you know, you're asking untrustworthy people, if that's a word, to be trustworthy, and they're not. We got a lot of dirt bags up there, and they're just going to keep doing what they do.
You mean like the unelected?
That, and you got Congress people that are just leaking this information as fast as they get it, or just trying to discredit, because you know there's a lot of, like I say, people are compromised up there.
So you're saying they're leaking information that's not helping the public, but just is politically based?
Yeah.
Okay. So, because someone might say, well, the information needs to be leaked, but not personal information like, you know, Grush's mental health records or something like that. I mean, I've had, you know, several family members pass away, not from PTSD, but they had PTSD.
Yeah.
And so I've seen it, how it affects people, and it should be private, and people shouldn't judge people who've suffered. You know, we've put them out there, you know, in defense of our country. Well, that's interesting. The whole thing is interesting, and hope you can find out more for us in the future. Everybody's just, you know, it's like some days I'm like, I'm just going to put it out of my mind because the curiosity is killing me.
Yeah.
You know, but just briefly on this situation, is it the Strait of Hormuz, where the Houthis, the Yemen is? This is something I'm personally curious about.
Yeah, what's going on there? Well,
what do you think?
The Houthis are being funded by Iran. Do you remember we just freed up $6 billion for them for supposedly for aid, you know, for medical care and things, which is a joke. They're just throwing the money at the terrorists. And so we're funding a war against ourselves.
Do you think that our ships, our Navy, will just start escorting, or do you think they're?
Well, they're probably going to have to if these things are vital to this country, and then that puts our men in harm's way, and then somebody gets hurt. I mean, it's over. You got to question too. Why are we in these portions of the world? Why are we? If it's for energy, why are we just not getting it here? We were exporting energy 3 years ago. Now we're importing it.
Huh. I know that there's several sort of several accounts on Twitter that are X now that are sort of giant propaganda sites for Iran, and you know, they're touting how the economy is already being affected, and every time some kind of statistic comes that they sort of trumpet it, put it out there. And sometimes I wonder if these people actually understand the military capabilities of the United States. They seem to sort of overlook the abilities that we have.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, Tim, I really appreciate I'm trying to respect your time constraints.
And I appreciate you, brother. And I apologize. This is, I'm constantly busy. And right now, especially a lot of my colleagues, this is a good time to take time off. But for me, it's working right up to the wire pretty much on Christmas. So we've, a lot of people, we meet with a lot of people in almost 8 counties I represent. So it's pretty constant. So, but it's been a pleasure being with you, brother, and please keep in touch. And couple of months or so, we get some more information. Let's get back together. Hopefully we'll have a hearing.
I was going to ask you if I was going to put together a little roundtable with people you've probably already met, like Dan Warren and a few other people.
Okay.
If you don't mind, like in January or sometime.
Yeah, make it after, make it at least midway through January, because I think we're supposed to be in the SCIF the 6th or the 7th, somewhere in that time frame.
Oh, I didn't realize that had been scheduled. Thank you.
Yeah, well, allegedly, you know, they're. I almost wish they wouldn't make it public. That way they wouldn't give a reason to stop it.
Yeah. Well, I wish you luck and happy holidays, and try to relax and get some good time in with the family. I know all this stuff has to be really stressful.
Nah,
so
it's all right. I volunteered for it. These guys do all that talk. They volunteered for this job. So thank you, brother.
All right. Thank you. Thanks.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yes,
See
sir. Bye-bye.
Okay, there you go. I thought our questions would last a little longer, but he answered them so quickly. We got through in time for him to get to his next meeting. So thanks to everyone out there. I appreciate the questions, and sorry if I missed your question. And what's Kurt say here? Even if it's GIF, the Congress doesn't need to know anything. They're not going to. That's true. That's true. All right. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you watching, and I'm going to put together a little round table. And you heard Tim; he'll be back. I was hoping that he would have information to share with us more, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Thanks, guys.